What's this? A letter for me.
Welcome to another episode of Remember the Great Sports through the Mail Thursdays. Today I'm going to share with you 3 envelopes I just recently got back in the mail. So let me just jump right into this. And the first one is postmarked from St. Louis, Missouri. And it is former. Another one for my Baltimore Orioles collection. Joe Nolan on 1. 2 is a Cincinnati Red. A third is an Atlanta Brave. And a fourth is a Baltimore Oriole, 1983 Topps. So let me tell you about Joe Nolan and his career in Major League Baseball. Joe Nolan, a St. Louis, Missouri native, attended high school in St. Louis and was drafted by the New York Mets in the second round of the 1969 draft. At just 18 years old, Nolan found himself in the rookie ball affiliate of the New York Mets. He spent 1969 through 1972 working his way through the minors, and in 1972 made his debut in the major leagues, appearing in 4 games for the Mets that year. Well, after the 72 season, in 1973 at 22, he was sent back to the Mets, where he spent the entire year in AAA. The same would be said about 1974. Well, going into 1975, he would be traded by the Mets to the Atlanta Braves for Leo Foster. He would spend almost the entire season in 1975 in AAA for the Braves. However, he would get a call-up, appearing in 4 games for the Braves that year. Well, 1976, he found himself as a return back to AAA at 25 years old. And in the following year, in 1977, he made the Atlanta Braves team, appearing as the backup catcher in 62 games. Well, in 1978 and 79, he would return in Atlanta, appearing in 95 games and 89 games respectively as the backup catcher. But in 1980, he would be sent back down to the minor leagues with Atlanta. However, they would trade him about mid-season to the Cincinnati Reds. Well, he would split time between the Reds AAA affiliate and the Braves AAA affiliate in 1980, but in 1981 he would again be delegated to the backup catcher role with the Reds, appearing in 81 games. Right before the 1982 season, the Reds decided to trade Nolan to the Baltimore Orioles. Well, Nolan would spend the 1982 season as the backup catcher for the Orioles, and in 1983, he would be part of the World Series champion Baltimore Orioles team as the backup catcher. He would continue to play 1984 and 85 in a backup role for the Orioles. And then after the 1985 season, at 34 years old, he retired from baseball. After his retirement from baseball, according to his Wikipedia page, he returned to the St. Louis area and he worked for several years as a manufacturer's representative. And I'm not really sure what that means, but I guess he was a salesman for many years. And it also says that he's an avid outdoorsman. So I want to thank Mr. Nolan for signing my cards. Another one for the Baltimore Orioles collection, so we'll move on to the next one. All right, this next one's postmarked from Ohio. And it is former New York Met, Walt Terrell / Detroit Tiger / New York Yankee on 4 of 4 cards. So let me tell you about Walt Terrell and his career in baseball. So Walt Terrell, or Walt Terrell, depending on how you want to pronounce it, I'm not really sure how, which is the proper way, was a Indiana native that attended college at Morehead State University in Morehead, Kentucky. Well, he was drafted by the New York Mets in the 15th round of the 1979 draft. However, he chose not to sign that year with the Mets, and instead he stayed another year in college and also played in the Cape Cod League that year. Well, in 1980, he was drafted again, but this time his draft status didn't improve, and he was drafted in the 33rd round by the Texas Rangers. So this is one of those cases that his draft status actually went down and not up after he chose not to sign. Well, Walt spent a couple years in the minor leagues for the Texas Rangers organization, but after the 81 season, going 15-7 that year for the Rangers minor league affiliate, he was traded to the New York Mets. 4, Lee Mazzilli. Well, after the trade to the Mets, he spent most of the year in 1982 in AAA for the Mets. However, he did get a call up to the majors, getting 3 starts that year, and unfortunately lost all 3 decisions in 1982 as a Met. Well, in 1983, he found his way back, starting the season with the Mets AAA affiliate, but after having a superb 10 wins and 1 loss record with a 3.12 ERA, the Mets couldn't ignore what he was doing in the minors and called him up to the majors in 1983. Well, in 83, he split the season. He had 8 wins and 8 losses that year for the Mets in 21 games. Well, going into 1984, he made the Mets major league roster on the pitching staff, and that year he went 11 wins and 12 losses, but his ERA was pretty respectable at just 3.52. Well, after the 84 season, he was then traded to the Detroit Tigers for outfielder Howard Johnson. So this is how Hojo became a New York Met. Well, his first year in Detroit, he actually, under the tutelage of Sparky Anderson, had a great year, going 15-10 with a 3.85 ERA. So not a bad pickup for the Tigers that year. Well, 1986, he would repeat that with 15 wins as well. But in 1987, he would have the best season of his career, winning 17 games and having 10 losses. In 1988, things didn't go so well after coming off that 17-win season, and his record fell from 7 wins and 16 losses on the 88 Tigers franchise. Well, after the 88 season, he was traded away from the Detroit Tigers to the San Diego Padres for third baseman Chris Brown and Keith Moreland, which were both pretty good major leaguers, in themselves. Well, he didn't spend a whole lot of time in San Diego. He only spent about half a season with San Diego because in July of 1989, he was then dealt to the New York Yankees for Mike Pagliario and John Schultze. Well, after spending that 1989 season with the Yankees, where he went 6-6 after his half season in San Diego, the Yankees decided not to renew his contract in 1990. Well, in 1990, he signed as a free agent with the Pirates. However, his record was just 2-7, and midway through the season, the Pirates decided to release Walt from his contract. Well, he didn't stay unemployed long, as the Detroit Tigers, his old franchise, snatched him up again and gave him a shot to be a starter in their rotation. Well, with his return to Detroit, he went 6-4 that year in 1990, and then the Tigers decided to bring him back in 1991, and he again started 35 games, and his record was 12 wins and 14 losses that year. Well, in 1992, at 34 years old, he was asked again to come back in a kind of a long relief starter role for the Tigers, and he went 7-10 that season for the Tigers. Well, after the 92 season, the Tigers decided to let him go as a free agent, and he signed on with the Toronto Blue Jays that year, and he spent 8 games in the Toronto Blue Jays AAA affiliate in 1993, never getting a call up to the majors that year. And that's a shame because the Blue Jays would go on to win the World Series in 1993, their second of their back-to-back World Series. So Walt was on the right team. He just didn't make it up to the majors that year, which meant he didn't get that World Series ring. So that's kind of an ironic thing because in 1984, as many know, the Tigers won the World Series. He was a member of the Mets. The Mets traded him to the Tigers, and then the Mets won the World Series in 1986, so he missed that World Series. And then at the end of his career, he signed with the Blue Jays, and they won the World Series the year he decided to hang it up in AAA. So it's kind of an ironic twist of fate that Walt never had a chance to play in the World Series, but he was on teams, or he had teammates, I should say, that won their World Series without him. So very happy to add Walt Terrell to the autograph collection, as I've never gotten him before. All right, so this final one is technically a Baltimore Oriole, but he never made it up to the majors with them, and that is former first-round pick of the Orioles, Junior Kennedy, on 1, 2, 3, and a 4th, all as a Cincinnati Red. And I don't have a lot of cards outside of being a Cincinnati Red, so let me tell you about Junior Kennedy and his career. Kennedy was born in Oklahoma. However, his family relocated to California, and he was in high school in California, where he was selected 10th overall in the 1968 Major League Draft by the Baltimore Orioles. Another neat thing about Junior Kennedy is his name is actually Junior Kennedy. It's not, short for anything. His name is Junior Raymond Kennedy. And I think that's just cool as heck. But, he's an Oklahoma boy, so what do you expect? So, Kennedy, out of high school, signed with the Baltimore Orioles. And at just 17 years old, he found himself in the Baltimore Orioles minor league affiliate in rookie ball. Well, he would spend 1968 all the way through 1973 playing for the Baltimore Orioles affiliate. He would spend his time with the Orioles through the 1973 season. Then during the 1973 offseason, he would be traded along with Merv Redmond, who I've done a video on, for Ross Grimsley from the Reds. So this is how Ross Grimsley became a Baltimore Oriole and how Merv Redmond became a Cincinnati Red along with Junior Kennedy. Well, the 1974 season, Kennedy would spend the majority of his time in AAA for the Reds. However, he would get a call-up to the majors in 74 and would appear in 22 games for the Reds that season. Well, in 1975, he found himself completely in AAA again for the Reds, and the same could be said about 1976. Well, after the 76 season, even though it doesn't really show up, on his major league stats, he was actually selected by the San Francisco Giants before the 1977 season, and he would spend an entire year with the Giants in AAA, not getting called up to the majors. And after the 1977 season, the Reds would then purchase him back from the Giants, but this time they would put him on their major league roster. Well, 1978 and 79, he would split time being a backup infielder at second base. He would also fill in a little bit at shortstop, appearing in 89 and 83 games respectively. Well, in 1980, he would appear in 104 games, primarily being used as the starting second baseman. Well, by 1981, he would be back relegated to a backup role for the Reds. And after the 81 season, the Chicago Cubs purchased his contract from the Reds. Well, in 1982, for the Cubs, he would be the primarily starting second baseman, appearing in 105 games that year for the Cubs. He batted just .219 that year, and going into the 1983 season, he appeared in just 17 games for the Cubs that year when he was released in August of 1983 before season's end. Well, despite being released by the Cubs, the Chicago Cubs offered him a managing job the following year, coaching one of their minor league affiliates in the California League. So, to wrap up Junior Kennedy's career, he was the 10th overall pick in that draft. However, he just really didn't live up to that hype, that a 10th overall first round pick would. He was more of a glove guy. He wasn't really good with the stick. I mean, his lifetime batting average is .248. He had 4 home runs in his entire playing career from 1974 to 1983. And, of course, that's with, a lot of stints up and down at AAA, of course, earlier in his career. But, he just never really lived up to the 10th overall pick hype. Was a dependable major leaguer, but, not huge as you would normally think a first rounder would be. Another interesting note is his brother Jim Kennedy also played professionally for the St. Louis Cardinals and made his debut in 1970. So, very happy to add all 3 of these individuals to my collection. I've never gotten any of these 3 before in the past, so very happy to do so. Very happy to add Walt Terrell or Terrell, however you want to say that. Obviously happy to get a couple more Baltimore Orioles in my collection. Getting one more Baltimore Orioles all-time card signed. So I want to thank you for joining me for another episode of Remember the Great Sports. And as always, happy collecting.
Bye.